thank you for reaching out to me and inviting me to come. It is certainly a busy season right now for myself and Anna and Mark Hendrickson, one of the other candidates for state chair. So we've been kind of traveling all over, and it's great to be out across the state. I was telling Amber earlier today that I hung around a little long down in Pauls Valley today. Part of that is I love getting to go out. Because I live in Oklahoma City, and so much of what even the party does is centered around Oklahoma City area and Tulsa, we get to know the same people, we get to know the same issues, and so getting out into the rest of the state when we have that opportunity, I like to hear from everyone. So again, my name is Sarah Baker. I am running for state chair. I have to say there's a lot of similarities between myself and Anna as to what led us to the decision to run for chair. I started my career in politics about 10 years ago working for the very conservative organization, Oklahoma Farm Bureau. And in that organization, I had some very interesting come to Jesus meetings with myself and why I continued to stay there. So when the opportunity presented itself for me to leave and do something that I felt more passionate about, I took that opportunity. So I went from doing that to doing advocacy and grassroots work on public education and some women's rights issues for about 5 years. And then at that point, I decided that I was going to run for office. And I ran for office in a very red district out west of Oklahoma City in Yukon. I unfortunately did not win that election. I did get 11 points more than the last Democrat that ran out there. So we, if we're going to talk about, hey, I may not have won the election, but hey, we made some progress. So, and there hadn't been a Democrat run out in that district in a number of years. And then in 2016, we actually had a Democratic primary. So that was really exciting. So part of the reason that I decided to run for chair is many of the things that Anna has already addressed, the lack of party involvement with the counties, with the congressional districts, with candidates. I was a candidate. I know what it was like. The only real help that I got from the state party is when I picked up the phone and asked them for something, and really the only thing they could give me was, hey, yeah, you can come use the office to do a phone banking. That was it. I had no outreach. I had no candidate training. I had nothing. And even though I had been in the political world for a number of years by that point, I was a new candidate, and doing advocacy work and going up and talking to legislators and working on the policy development side, that is a completely different area than running as a candidate. And I, of course, thought that I knew what I was doing going into it, and I learned very, very quickly that I did not know what I was doing, and I had to learn fast. And so over the last couple of years, we have done a couple of candidate trainings for candidates from the party, but not nearly enough. And they are not extensive. They are kind of like an afternoon, like 3 or 4 hours. And quite frankly, that is not enough for a candidate to gain the information that they need and the tools and resources that they need in order to make themselves a competitive candidate and a candidate that can actually go out and win an election. So we have come as a Democratic Party to rely heavily on candidates hiring somebody to go work for them. And some candidates have the ability to do that, and some candidates don't have the ability to do that. But that shouldn't mean that the party is abandoning the candidates, especially the ones that don't have the resources, the financial resources, in order to hire campaign professionals. So one of the things that we need to certainly be doing, like Anna said, is working with the county parties, working with the district officers, and working with candidates. Part of the problem, though, is that we don't have the resources to do it. And this is where there is a clear difference between even Anna and I and some of the other candidates or candidates two candidates that are running. A full-time chair, if we are going to treat the Oklahoma Democratic Party as a professional organization, that it is and that it should be, we have to have somebody at the top level of leadership taking this on full-time. Why that is important is all of the things that I want to do, all of the programs, all of the trainings. I want us to have field staff that is out in the state, working with you all, working with the candidates, especially in an election cycle, helping us recruit candidates, helping us vet them, helping us train them before April comes of an election year and they put their name on the declaration of candidacy. We need to be doing that work in advance. So we need somebody all the time working, not just the state chair, but we've got to have people out on the ground all year round. And the 4 or 5 office staff that are located in Oklahoma City, that just frankly isn't possible because there is so much stuff that has to be done in the office. We need to build. We need more people. We need to bring more people in. We need to have not just volunteers, but professional people that know the tools and know what they can do to help you, and then get that feedback from counties and district officers and put those resources in your hands. That's going to take money. And that's another reason why it is so important that the chair be a full-time position. Because when we treat it like a hobby or a volunteer position, then there is not nearly the amount of time available in order for somebody to fundraise the kind of money that we need to fundraise in order to do the things that the state party needs to do to win elections and elect Democrats, because that is our sole purpose, electing Democrats. Everything under that is to serve that one goal of electing Democrats. So what does that look like? I have spent the last 8 months as the executive director of the party. Prior to that, I was the communications director. In 8 months, I raised about $80,000 for the party. So that was about 2 to 3 times a month that I got to spend fundraising. My average in a 4-hour block of time is about $3,500 in money that I was able to raise on average. Some days were much less, some days were much better. But on an average, that's $3,500. If we take out all of the time for weekends and holidays and everything, it's about 200 days a year. 200 times $3,500 is $700,000. Could you imagine what the state party could do and the programs and the trainings that we could put out into the field with that kind of financial support from people across the state? We have other money that comes in, but it's not enough to cover everything that we do. We have partnership money that comes from the DNC. We have donors that give on a regular basis, but it is not enough. Somebody has to be out there working to raise that money and picking up the phone and building relationships with donors across the state, and that person has to do it all the time on a regular basis in order to raise the kind of money that we need to raise to be competitive in 2018. So that is a little bit about me. That is a little bit about what I would like to do for the party and where I would like to see us go, at least for the next 2 years, and hopefully over the next, a much longer period of time than the next 2 years. So I would be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Anybody?
It just seems as though from Woodward County to Oklahoma City, the breakdown in communications was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
We call for help, there's no return call, or the return call would be, well, we'll get so-and-so to contact you, and so-and-so never returned the call.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're going to organize and we're looking for leadership and we call the district or the state level, we really need someone to return that call. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, the momentum that we might have built just kind of pulls out. You know, you can't get any help. I know there's a lot of rules and there's a lot of statutes that say you can do this and you can't do that. And when we're looking for paraphernalia, paperwork to hand out, something to get people involved. We've got to have an answer. How would you address that situation?
Well, I know that that has been a huge problem, and I tried as best I could while I was executive director to deal with that. The easiest way for me to personally deal with it was I gave everybody my cell phone number. And so if they couldn't reach me at the office, they had my cell phone number, they could call me or send me a text message, and I would do everything that I could to get you whatever you needed. That, you know, is a process, and it is an issue that has to be dealt with, that has not been appropriately dealt with, that I tried very desperately to get some help with dealing with that issue while I was executive director. And there were constant roadblocks, even for me as executive director. One of the things, the role of chair and the role of executive director are two very different roles. But I think that it is incredibly important, especially having been in at least one of those positions already, that there is a chair that empowers the executive director to properly run the office and properly manage the staff. And that is what I hope to do, is to empower my executive director to do those things and take the action that needs to be taken, that there were often times I was not able to take on my own in that role, unfortunately. So that is a serious problem, and I recognize that. That is not the first time I've heard that. I did a candidate wrap-up after the election, and that was certainly one of the biggest concerns, is that people needed help, and they would call so-and-so person at the office and not get answers or not hear back from them for sometimes days or ever. And, you know, my biggest response to that was always, this is my phone number. If you have a problem getting a hold of somebody and you are not getting the answers you need, you call me and I will make sure that you get that. And that helped, but it didn't come for everybody, because everybody didn't know that they could call me directly. So I tried to make that available. I tried to make it available to as many of the candidates as I could last cycle. I had candidates that would call me at 11:30 at night and stay on the phone with me for an hour. So there were some of them that took advantage of that. But that is an issue that we have to address. And I can't give you a solid answer as to how that is going to be addressed at this moment until after convention and we have a very serious talk with the Central Committee as to how to move forward with some of those issues.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.